Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us for the Q&A session today, which is going to wrap up this wonderful series that we've done with Colleen Jack. So today we're just going to speak about some general things. So for those of you who are thinking about starting a collection of clothing, who are starting to look for CMT companies and that sort of thing, we're just going to have a general conversation around the planning and that kind of thing. So, Colleen, if somebody is starting out and they're planning a range of clothing, where do you feel they should begin with their planning?
Yeah, so you know, I don't normally plug myself, but book a session with me.
Yes.
And in an hour we can get clarity on where's and the whys and the hows and how much. So firstly, the first thing that I see is people underestimating how much a range is going to cost.
Okay.
And so if you're looking at a proper story of about 15 items with enough units to cover the CMT's minimums in maybe 4 color ranges, you are looking at anything up to R250,000 to launch. And remember that you are paying cash for everything before you've even placed an order. So you do have to be able to bankroll yourself. I also see a lot of people, and sometimes on your Facebook, soft furnishings, soft clothing, sorry, what is your Facebook?
Clothing and soft
group?
furnishing.
Clothing and soft furnishing, that people are sending out asks for recommendations for CMTs that are like one-stop shops that will give them the pattern maker, the grader, and the layer up and cut, make, and trim. Those are rare. You are more likely to have to source your own pattern maker. Source, if that pattern maker isn't a grader, then a grader, and then source a CMT. And so the first thing to do is find a good pattern maker who will look at the range, look at the fabric swatches, and advise you on the block origination, advise you on who your target market is and what size range that correlates to, and then you go and visit a CMT. It's always important that the CMT fits the range that you are producing. So if you're producing a woven range, make sure that that CMT specializes in wovens. If you are producing a stretch range, like an activewear range, make sure that they have got the correct machinery to produce stretch garments. Yeah.
And something else, so pattern makers and graders are not always the same person?
Not always.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
And so you might find a pattern maker grader, but you would very rarely find a grader pattern maker.
Okay.
Graders will only grade.
Okay. Okay. So that's something that you should do your research on before you just launch in and make assumptions that the pattern maker will be able to do your grading also.
Yeah. Especially if you're doing kiddies wear. That is a very specialized grading process. And then, of course, you've got manual pattern makers and digital pattern makers. And there are pros and cons to both.
Which would you recommend people use, and why?
Look, manual is always great because you've then got the physical master pattern. And so you have got possession of your IP. With a digital pattern maker, the IP sits in that computer. And so I would recommend that with a digital pattern maker, you ensure that they are not going to share your patterns with anyone else. You've got no way of stopping them reprinting that pattern off for somebody else. So do put those kind of contractual boundaries in place. And so a manual pattern maker will be great until you're hitting volumes where CMTs will insist that you digitize the markers. And then you are going to have to move to a digital pattern maker. But with a digital pattern maker, you can ask them just to print off a master copy for your patterns and cut them out for you, and then just hang them somewhere safe that, you know, should the relationship go sour or anything, you have a copy of your patterns, or your most important patterns.
Now, if somebody doesn't have R250,000 saved up to do this, would you then say to them that they shouldn't proceed, that it would be unrealistic to proceed?
You know, Mel, we are passionate about collaboration, and that's where I say go and find designers who are doing a similar range to yours, and start by selling parties and having your own marketing list where you start to invite people over for a buying party using somebody else's ranges, and you'll earn a 15% commission off them, and you'll start to learn what sells and what doesn't. You don't necessarily have to do your own range. If you want to start slowly, then just, you know, manufacture with a CMT who's prepared to do a run of 25. Anything less than 25, you are not recouping your research and development costs. And if you just start with one item and sell that online, why not? You know, you can build it slow and steady. And, you know, I know that between my leggings and my choice of fabric, which is a little bit funkalicious, I'd be able to sell enough on just a good pair of leggings and build slowly. There's lots of ways to build your businesses collaboratively. And so don't have an ego attachment that it's not your styling. Learn as much as you can by supporting other designers.
And would you recommend, so I think perhaps some people also put the cart before the horse, where you dream up a collection, now you want to make it and sell it, but maybe you haven't connected to the market who are going to buy it yet. Exactly. Would you maybe suggest that people reverse that process and start to build their networks of buyers first before they launch into a big collection?
And that's exactly why you do a home selling party. You see who's buying what. You learn what your target market is buying. And so that's where you would fill in the gaps, so that those designers that you're supporting may not have the ranges that have your target market in mind. You will learn that by having those parties. And in doing so, slowly developing a marketing list. And I support more than one designer at a party. And as I said to you before, their target market might not be my target market. But if I put collections together and curate what I take from each of those designers, I can sell wardrobes using that designer's top, this designer's bottom, and that designer's jacket. And then I can specifically phone my clients saying, oh, so-and-so, I have got the most wonderful collection on Saturday. We're having a party. I've put some stuff aside for you. And do that one-on-one relationship stuff. And then you can do your bulk emails to everyone. And just on the parties, I do not provide eats. And one is because I don't want any oil marks on the garments, because my designers have trusted me with a sale or return. Some designers will ask you for a deposit on the value of the garments you have taken. Most my designers trust me impeccably, and they don't ask me for a deposit. So the ladies are not there to socialize, they're there to shop. And so I do not have champagne, I do not have eats. Sometimes I have considered providing a nanny, because a lot of women are not able to leave their kids with caregivers or partners on a Saturday, because people's lives are busy. And so I have considered having a good caregiver for the children on hand, so that the moms can shop. And I also don't have it all day, from 10 to 3, that's it. And one day, and return all the garments by Monday, so that those boutiques have got stock for Monday morning.
And a once monthly event?
Yeah, it depends on what you've got capacity for. I would normally have done it after my master classes. So it supports all the young designers on the master classes, and then of course my existing designers. but it depends on what you've got capacity for. My family would lose their minds if I did this once a month.
Okay. 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 And
Depends.
and what do you say to people who are thinking of doing fashion shows?
In my opinion, they are an expensive endeavor and not necessarily going to give you the marketing impact that you would think. And so be very clear on why you're doing a fashion show. You would do a fashion show as a creative expression. That will cost you money. Fashion shows are not how you generate income.
Okay. Okay.
Home selling parties are how you generate income.
Okay. Okay. Because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding around that. I certainly know that I was of the belief that you needed to do a fashion show to put your name on the map and to get your garments into magazines and to be seen. So that's useful feedback.
Yeah, and I think that magazines in itself, any publications are changing, and they are losing readership to online viewing. And so, rather do a good fashion shoot on Instagram.
Yes.
And more and more real people are putting up real photographs of themselves wearing their own clothes. You don't have to have a model the clothes for you. And I think we are looking at real women wearing real clothes.
And I'm pretty certain you could also get your customers who are happy with clothing they've bought from you to send you pictures of themselves wearing things they bought from you with permission to publish them.
Yeah, and so Mel, I look at on your Facebook channel the upcycling community and how many women proudly put selfies of themselves wearing their upcycled creations, and they are amazing.
Yes.
And so I do think that there is a place where fashion is real and not photoshopped and unobtainable women with perfect bodies. I love our upcycling community of women on Facebook who are showing themselves as their best selves in their imperfect bodies. Because really, most women that I know have got some little foible that they don't like about their bodies. And so when we make fashion ranges accessible to people, it's real. So whether it's Facebook that you're marketing on or Instagram, make it real. We don't have a ton of money to spend on a photo shoot, and go with good enough.
Do you think that fashion shows and models as we used to know them are, the place for them is disappearing?
I would hope that models are more reflective of healthy lifestyles and less as being of coat hangers. And so, I am averse to sort of reality TV and celebrity lifestyles because I think it is damaging. And so I'm looking at ways for us to find emotionally intelligent and literate role models for our girls and boys to model themselves against. And so, rail thin models are not what I would like my daughter to aspire to. I would like our children to aspire to healthy living and, healthy bodies rather than being a good clothes source.
That's beautiful insight. Now, if somebody is planning a collection and they're thinking of taking out a loan from the bank, how would you feel? How do you feel about that?
Sure. Mel, I am financially quite a conservative person, and I would be reticent to do anything incurring debt like a loan. And especially conservative answering you in a covert world at the moment. And so I get that I'm conservative. That's my nature. I'm risk averse. And so I would find other ways to do things on a budget. And so one of my favorite places in Cape Town is Kwalapis, to Victoria Road. And they are job lot fabrics. And so they are selling fabrics at extraordinarily reasonable prices that may have damage. And, you can cut around those holes and those damages, or even use the shading to your design effect. And so I would rather say, do things on a budget using fabrics that otherwise would have gone into a landfill. And, I don't know what a bank loan interest rate would cost, but that for me makes me nervous. Okay. And so I would much rather delay a launch for a year, because if your designs are good, you're going to sell.
Yes.
And so it may well be worth sitting on a savings account for a year before I would go into a loan. But somebody who's less risk averse may give you a different answer, Mel. But I can tell you that my last trip to Kwalapis in Cape Town, I bought 1,300 rands worth of fabric, and I was able to produce over 100 garments. And from the scraps, the offcuts, I was able to produce 20 jackets. And I mean, that's ridiculously cheap. 120 garments out of 1,300 rand.
That's almost for free.
Less than 100 rand a garment, or it's about 100 rand a garment. And the haberdasheries are extraordinarily cheap, and old lace trims, old narrow fabrics. It's wonderful. The only limit you have is your imagination. And trust your fingers. Your fingers will. You may not know what the fabric is, but your fingers will tell you whether it's a natural or a polyester. And trust your fingers to tell you the kind of handle that garment is going to give you, that fabric's going to give you on a garment.
I think that's amazing insight. Because I do speak to a lot of people who feel that money is the barrier to entry, and that the solution to that is to get a grant, get a loan, borrow money. So I love that you're telling us that there are other ways of doing it, and to rather think of those other ways first before you put yourself at financial risk. Because if the clothing doesn't sell, then how are you going to pay the bank back?
Yeah, and for me, it's always my family first. I would never compromise being able to feed my children in order to have creative expression. And money is not a barrier to entry. Imagination is a barrier to entry. Yes. And I would much rather say that if you do bomb and you're unable to sell those garments, then gift them.
Okay.
And I always say I don't always know who my garments belong to. And so I sit with some stock sometimes, and then somebody will pop in. I realize, oh, that's who belongs to that jacket.
Yes.
And then give it away. And that'll be far more worthwhile than experiencing yourself as having not succeeded. Then you just go, oh, fascinating, that didn't sell, but these garments still belong to somebody.
That's great. Now, how do you feel about getting your clothing to celebrities who might wear it in a very visible way as a strategy to market your products?
Of course, and influencers. Fantastic. And then I feel that there's also this awful celebrity culture of entitlement. And so I would much rather that there's actually reciprocity for energy exchanged more than just riding on somebody's celebrity status. So if somebody who's very well known or is an influencer finds your designs and likes them, fantastic. But I'm always leery of giving away things for free. So I would again go into collaboration. And so if I was using somebody's celebrity status or an influencer's status to do something, then I would want to build in some sort of corporate social investment in that. And that's so for every post that the influencer makes, I would like them to then also support a charity. I'm not sure, Mel. They do have their places and they're very good at what they do, but I would not want to ride on somebody's celebrity status alone. I would like it to have some sort of ethical kickback in some way. I don't even like the word kickback. I don't know what to call it. I would like it to, one of my favorite places to support is Dignity Dreams. And so if I knew that in some way Dignity Dreams was getting support, or if we could build a campaign around random acts of kindness, where we then collected a whole bunch of pure cotton fabrics for the sanitary pads and a whole bunch of threads that are almost to the end of their lifespan that we could donate, or some fabulous offcuts to make little bags for the girls that when they get their little panties and the pads in a drawstring bag, that bag is fabulous. I would much rather want to create some sort of other influence than just my own brand. It's probably not the best answer.
No, I love it. It's honest. And for me, the big word there is reciprocity. I think if there's entitlement from either direction, then it's not on a good track. So either you're feel entitled that the celebrity should showcase your stuff, or the celebrity feels entitled to free stuff because of what they're doing, then it's an indication that there isn't that reciprocity happening. And those kinds of relationships are always very dangerous, I feel.
Yeah, and I'm leery of this reality kind of fixation around celebrity. I would much rather know that you're a good human being than a celebrity.
I agree. So what are the most common mistakes that you see new clothing manufacturers make?
Not getting the size right, not understanding the difference between a block and a silhouette, putting too many items in a range, and so keep it simple, stupid. Understand how your items relate in a story, and so this top will go well with these pants, but also that other bottom, or that bottom will go with that jacket and that top. So work out your core wardrobes and keep it very tight and small. And going through too many colorways and not understanding that regional areas have reactions to different colors. And so one of my favorite examples is people see colors differently. And so with an immature color perception, certain people cannot see chartreuse green.
Okay.
And so don't sell chartreuse green if you know that your customers don't have a mature palette. And so not too many colorways. Don't be afraid while you're building a range to just keep it in the standard colors. It's relevant. People wear standard colors. There are very few people who will go and wear kind of eccentric colors. You've got to have the personality to pull off those kind of eccentricities and those bold prints and things like that.
I know when I was dying for the fashion industry, when I first started selling at markets where most of my customers were kind of white middle class people, everybody wanted blue and purple. And I couldn't sell yellow because it made the skin look sallow. And then when I shifted to the fashion industry and I was manufacturing for people like Stone Cherry and Sun Goddess, who had a black market, that then suddenly yellow and mustard was all I was making because it looked so
Yes, because
fabulous on their
skin.
dark skins. Yes. So I think that we also need to be sensitive of our market when we select colors and
Yes,
smart about that.
yes,
So Colleen, I see that we're coming near the end of our time. You
yes.
have given us a great deal of information, a lot to think about, and I think you've given new clothing manufacturers certainly a lot to think about, both in terms of being cautious and in terms of what else can we do, what other ideas can we explore. So thank you so much for sharing your expertise with
Very
us
well.
again today. I appreciate it very much.
It's been my joy and pleasure. Thank you, Mel. And thank you for allowing me as much leeway as possible to just get a lot of my ideas out of my head. So thank you for that.
No, it's been beautiful. I think you've created a very valuable resource, and I think that because it is evergreen online, that it's going to serve our local clothing industry for many, many years still to come. So thank you for creating this
Very
treasure
well.
with us.
Thank
So,
you for the opportunity.
so for those of you who are watching, if you would like to sign up for any of Colleen's masterclasses, you can contact her at info@patternworks.
No,
Sorry, Colleen at
no,
Patternworks.
yes, perfect. Thank you.
.co.za, and that's COLLEEN at PATTERWORKS.co.za. Thanks for
Perfect.
spending
Thank you.
time with us today.
Perfect. Thank you.